Good morning, colleagues. It's gone 10 o'clock, so if we can make a start to the meeting. Amanda, it's your first meeting in the Transport Committee. Welcome to the committee. I know we've got a number of substitutes here today, so welcome everybody. Secondly, we have an hour this morning, which is not very long because we've got a meeting following on, and therefore can I ask officers to be brief in their introductions to the reports, and also for members to make your questions short and to the point, otherwise we won't get opportunity for much to get through in the time that we have available. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do any members need to declare any interest on items today? No one's indicating. Item 3 are the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of March. And someone who was present at that meeting would wish to, I don't think there will be. Are we happy to accept those as 2? Thank you. Any matters arising? Covered on the agenda? No one's indicating. So the first item proper is the bus service performance report.
Thank you, Chair. Right, that's better. Thank you, Chair. So morning everyone. So on to the local bus service performance report. So through the enhanced partnership we work with operators to collate, review and analyse bus performance on an aggregated level. So this essentially helps us to track and monitor performance and passenger trends across the network. So in terms of bus patronage, we've obviously got an ongoing COVID decline that is not specific to Tees Valley. It's a UK-wide trend. When we report on this, we've got figure 1 showing annual patronage. Overall data shows that there has been a decrease in total annual patronage, which is approximately 4.65% in comparison to 2024-25. We've got all local authorities experiencing decreases, with reductions detailed in the report per area. Figure 2 shows Tees Valley bus patronage trips per month by quarter. So again, this just follows the decrease trend. So we've seen a decrease of 2.14% in patronage in the latest Q4 when compared to Q4 of last year. And again, we've got the local authority level trends shown in the report and also in figure 3. So we're continuing discussions through the enhanced partnership to understand the reasoning for the reduced demand. It's expected that it could be linked to the national fare cap, which recently went from £2 to £3. In addition, since producing this paper, we've carried out further assessment of the 4.65% drop that's shown in figure 1. So this has included some analysis on our supported service patronage. So essentially understanding if the supported services weren't in place, what would the patronage decline look like? So we've currently got about 16 services across the network, and they equate to about 1.4 million journeys per year. So essentially if those were not in operation, our patronage would have dropped by approximately 7.85%, so they're making quite a big difference to the network, although it's not necessarily shown in the graph. So essentially demonstrating the positive impact that the supported services are having, although it is still a decrease overall. Any questions?
Yeah. Are there any questions on this part of the report?
Excuse me, can we turn the volume up, please?
You can't hear a thing.
Are there any questions on that part of the report? Is that better?
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah, I would say.
Could you use?
Is it already on or do I? Yeah, based on my experience, Based on my experience of going to coffee mornings with elderly people, the main issue is lack of communication between Arriva, who are our main bus service in Redcar and around, the lack of communication with regards to cancellations, the lack of buses arriving on time, and their general disinclination to be able to report. I noticed on the form from Arriva, which indicates if you want to make a complaint, they just put a box which says what's the problem, but actually when they just write there's a problem with the 63 or what have you, that is not enough information. And so then the Arriva spend the next 6 months going backwards and forwards trying to find out what the actual bus was, the actual journey, the actual time, etc., by which point everybody's exhausted. So I think there's a complacency really about what is actually being delivered on the doorstep with these people. So I'm disappointed that there just seems to be this acceptance that we're nowhere near 95% and that punctuality is not good. Buses are cancelled with no pre-warning, and elderly people particularly, because they're the ones who have a great proportion of them in my ward, never get informed, can't be informed. Everything's on the app or on the website, which neither of them they don't access. I just think there's a huge communication issue between, certainly the buses, between the Arriva Bus Company and the TDC and the actual people on the street. So that's my opinion.
No, thank you. I think we're coming on to wider improvements into the bus service improvement plan that's now part of the Mayor's Transport Fund report, so we'll come on to the detail in terms of, I think we know at the point that not everybody has access to apps, so there's increased real-time information provision, a lot of work going to improve shelters, infrastructure, timetables at stops, and we've also got an action with the partnership as well. I think there was issues with the latest change in Redcar and the communication around that, so there was a joint action to improve that moving forward.
Is that the change from the 81? Was they changed the number, changed the whole route, or they added on to the route with no reference, nothing on bus shelters to say that had actually taken place at all. It was all on the app. No notices, nothing to actually indicate that anything had changed whatsoever. So there were lots of people who were watching this 28 go past, waiting for an 81 bus that didn't arrive.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's really, considering it's such a big organisation, and presumably this isn't something that's just suddenly arisen, this has been going on for years, but there doesn't seem to be any improvement. So I'm desperately disappointed, actually. So.
No, thank you. There was quite a bit of correspondence on that change after, so I think we can send that round to yourself, because there's a lot of back and forth in terms of who's briefing who and getting the information out there, so we'll pass that, we can take that as an action to pass on. And as I say, there's a noted point to make improvements moving forward.
Any other comments on this section?
Thank you. So on to the next figures of the report, which are figures 4, 5 and 6. So this looks at concessionary patronage in closer detail. And I will side note on these, the data for these charges typically collated on a quarterly basis. So we essentially report on the previous quarter at each Transport Committee session. We have had a few issues with getting the operator data for these figures. So they've actually unchanged from the previous report, and apologies, it should have been noted within the content that was the case. So I think again we'll take an action to recirculate the report once we've got the updated figures, so members can see the latest position on 4, 5 and 6. So next we've got bus reliability. So a standard measure of bus reliability is derived by looking at the total scheduled vehicle miles, so the total number of miles that a vehicle was meant to operate on the timetabled service, and comparing this to the total actual vehicle miles operated. And this essentially creates something called lost mileage. So it can be due to multiple factors, so staff absence, mechanical issues, traffic disruptions and congestion across the network. So we've got trends in bus service lost mileage shown in figure 7. And then we know there is an ongoing issue around traffic congestion, and there's a process in place to also hopefully improve that moving forward. So within the graph, when compared to quarter 4 of 24-25, total lost mileage has reduced as a percentage, so it's decreased from 2.78 to 2.38. So in terms of the specific reasons for this, so the reason mechanical issues has decreased, lost mileage due to staff availability has also decreased, so positive changes there, and the traffic congestion has remained broadly stable, but there has been a slight increase, and traffic congestion is the largest contributor to lost mileage in the latest quarter.
Right.
Just come in on that, please. I have a meeting with Arriva at Redcar regularly, and we have been trying desperately and unsuccessfully so far to alleviate an issue which is a massive issue in Redcar, which is the West End Road level crossing, which causes a huge amount of disruption to buses coming through into town. There have been some electric signs which have been put up around, which indicate to drivers when the barriers actually go down. And a request was from Arriva to Network Rail that Network Rail, as soon as they knew the barriers were going down, that information went through to Redcar Depot so that the buses would be able to divert if necessary, or know that there was going to be a situation where that those buses were going to be, they knew they were going to be late, and that was going to, the information was going to be updated. To date, for the last 18 months, we've been trying to do that. To date, nothing has happened, and that information is still not being passed through from Network Rail to Arriva at Redcar Depot. So, although you're saying that there is a problem with congestion, it doesn't seem that at the moment there is any effort to make to actually improve that situation.
You're talking about live data from Network Rail into that element?
Yeah, because the Network Rail, obviously the trains are coming past at different times, they're not always on time, and therefore it can disrupt at different times, the buses coming through.
So we'll pick that up with the digital team, because the digital team are the people that installed the electric signs, so they're getting the feed in to there. So it's a conversation we can have. Wasn't aware, nobody's made us aware that that conversation was taking place with Arriva. They haven't flagged that with us. So
well, the meeting we had was between Arriva and Network Rail, but even so, that's still obviously an issue. So I'm just saying there were just small issues along the way that seem to be still there as niggles, but are using an excuse without actually anything moving forward.
No, we're aware. We can certainly pick that up because we know how we're getting the feedback from the Network Rail to work with the EMS side. So happy to pick that up with the digital team and take that as action.
Right, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. So figure 8 is bus service punctuality. So this shows the percentage of services on time using the Traffic Commissioner's definition. So this is buses departing within the bracket of 1 minute early or 5 minutes late. So all areas see volatility and punctuality due to various reasons. Again, linking to traffic congestion, as mentioned, with the lost miles in figure 7. And it's different across sections of the year. So for example, Redcar and Cleveland in the summer months, and also the retail centres around the Christmas period. So in total, the Tees Valley figure of 83.67% in quarter 4, so the latest data represents an increase in punctuality from the previous 81.56 reported as of the quarter last year. And this is again in line with other areas of the North East who have also seen similar increases in punctuality. So it's broadly in line with the regional position. Into customer satisfaction. So as a reminder, Transport Focus are the independent watchdog for transport users. So they undertake representative surveys across the year, and then TVCA get that feedback and we share it with members to understand issues from the passenger's perspective. So figure 9 shows that across the full year, overall satisfaction has remained relatively high, but there has been a slight decrease when compared to 2024. So we've gone from 81% to 79% in the latest report figures. So there's been improvements across individual aspects, so including the length of time you've had to wait for the bus and the punctuality at the stop where you caught the bus. Overall, the most negative element that's come out of this survey is how satisfied passengers are with the value for money for their journey. So as a snapshot, it was 73% in 2023, then it went to 78% in 2024, and it's now decreased to 68%. And we feel this essentially reflects the increases tied to the national cap, which went from £2 to £3. And we've got the figure there showing those results from the Transport Focus survey. Just the last element on customer satisfaction, so our two main operators, Aviva and Stagecoach, provide data regarding the number of complaints received per quarter. So this is expressed as a percentage of the reported quarterly patronage. So overall, again, with comparing the latest data, there's been a decrease, a very minor decrease observed in terms of passenger complaints from the operators.
Thank you, Emily. Any further questions or comments on this? Maybe?
Can I just make
No,
that
just can't
note?
maybe on the side.
Sorry. Yes, thank you, Steve. Sorry, Marion, I'll try and be quick. Thank you, Emily, for paragraph 26, drawing attention to the Transport Focus survey. I note, and it isn't noted in the report, that as of 2025, Tees Valley came 42nd out of 43 local authorities with regards overall journey satisfaction. Given that we've seen a decrease in satisfaction from 80% to 79%, and the bottom half of that table of 43, a lot of authorities are seeing an increase, albeit small, averaging about 3% or something. Do we have any specific targets about increasing the overall journey satisfaction and some of these metrics within Transport Focus? I think it'd be useful to kind of quantify what our ambitions are with regards to satisfaction of the services that we're providing. Thank you, Steve.
Problem. Thank you. So we have had detailed discussions with Transport Focus following the results that we got back. I think there's a couple of elements that came out of it. So the value for money was one key element in what we're doing in terms of reducing fares offers. And then there was also quite negative feedback in terms of shelters, how safe people feel and the quality of shelters. And we can share those, the full detailed reports with members. If there's any kind of key points that you want to pick out, and we can pick up with Transport Focus. I think from discussions with the partnership, there is a lot ongoing to improve bus services, and it's probably just not necessarily happening as quick as other areas, which probably is reflected in the results. I think we would caveat as well that the results, there was a lot of changes within the last kind of 6 months that won't necessarily be reflected in the 2025 results. So it's something that we'll continue to monitor and track. I believe we get updates from Transport Focus quarterly, so it should hopefully align with these sessions, and we can see where the trends are going.
Alan?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things on that, Libby. I think, as you know, we're now getting multi-year bus settlement, so that means that we've got that long-term planning. That means that we've got a commitment to do the survey over the next 3 years, so that creates an opportunity, together with the basic refresh, to look at that approach of kind of using some of those measures as a key kind of target to try and shift the dial on those things for the next 3 years. I think the other thing to say is that following those kind of results, the Mayor met with the MD of the bus company in particular to make sure that there was plans in place to improve that performance. And that is a new MD who's 3 months in post, about 3 months in post, and so yeah, positive relationships continuing to build. He also knows the North East because he's come from Go Ahead, or Go North East back in the day. He's had a little stint in rail before he's come back to the bus industry, so I think that's a positive move and a recognition of some of the challenges in the North East and this area as well.
Thank you. Maya?
I think just two different things. Could you just identify why there has been, why we've improved slower than other local authorities? You said that we haven't been as effective in improving results. So why is that?
So I think this is within the full report results, so not necessarily sure on the reasons why, because we're all doing the right things, we're all doing very similar things to improve bus services across the region. So it'll be something that we continue monitoring. We speak closely with our neighbouring authorities as well. We did note there was a difference, so that value for money figure that was pulled out. So NECA, for example, did score higher in the value for money category because they capped the national cap to £2.50. So there's differences with different schemes across the authorities that then impact the results that come out of the survey also.
So maybe if you're monitoring and not finding anything that you can identify, perhaps we need to broaden the net to actually examine other areas to see what it is that you're not picking up that might make the difference. If you feel that you're doing everything right, but we're still that improvement isn't as good, then maybe you're missing something that you need to be looking elsewhere at.
Yeah, well, not the point. We do that as part of the partnership. We work closely with lots of authorities and there's various groups that we discuss these results at, so we will continue to do that and report it through the partnership.
Right, the other one was just to as a pick up that I said at the beginning about the form that needs to be filled in if people are complaining. I don't know if that's relevant to the survey or whether that's a different element, but that definitely needs to, as a practical to be improved so that actually the complaints that come through are more effectively analysed as well.
We'll pick that up with Aviva, so it's separate to this survey. That sounds like Aviva's complaints process. We will raise it with them again through the partnership, then we'll come back to it with a response on that, because they have, as far as we're aware, just update the website and things. So we'll pick that up and we'll follow up with a response.
Alan, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just a really quick one, but I think a lot of the measures in this passenger satisfaction are actually measures of things when you're on the bus. Obviously, a substantial proportion of our basic money and our revenue we're getting in for bus is actually to provide those services, and no measures here around the more quantitative elements around how close you are to a bus network as well. And I think that's part of this picture for me, is we have those decisions to make around investing in providing more bus services, which we're doing with a lot of our money, as well as trying to get that balance between getting the fare levels and the fare structure right. Decisions could have been made to put more money into reducing fares, but the decisions was made to provide those additional kind of services as well. So that's the benchmark. That's why we can't provide the same as kind of the NECA. We can't match because we haven't got the funding in order to do that.
Any final questions?
Excuse me, do we have an opportunity to speak?
We just need 2 minutes.
Sorry. No, it's not. It's not that kind of
It
meeting.
did say that members of the public are welcome, so...
Yes, ask to attend and observe.
Okay.
Are there any further questions around the table?
That's outrageous.
No. In which case, can we move on to the rail service performance report? Is that with you?
So in terms of rail service performance, the latest quarter reporting is improved on the previous quarter. Significant recovery. That's generally because the previous period, being the autumn, is usually the lowest performing period of the rail industry because of the weather and kind of leaf fall conditions. In brief, there are improvements across all areas. Going down to the paragraph around Northern, in particular, which is around paragraph 10, the performance, the T3, so the number of trains within 3 minutes of their time is much better. The level of cancellation is kind of stabilised across all of the individual routes, particularly Saltburn to Darlington, Bishop Auckland seems to be the best performing, and still some challenges on the Durham coast, which is a persistent kind of challenge. In terms of the longer distance operators, obviously the T3, so that's within, like I say, within 3 minutes of scheduled time, is much lower. Consequently, as a result of those trains kind of travelling further distances, cancellations tend to be around about the same, around 3%. In terms of LNER performance, I think the one thing I would highlight here, although it is one train in each direction at Middlesbrough, particularly period 13 having no cancellations of that service within the period, and particularly at Darlington running at 93% on the T3 figure is quite an impressive performance compared to effectively a 72.8% on T3 indicator across the whole of the rest of the LNER network. Similarly, cross-country performance tends to be a little bit lower, again covering much longer distances. In terms of the performance at the stations, I think I would highlight that again Middlesbrough seems to be performing fairly well, probably on the basis that there are much more local services than Darlington, where a lot of services are covering longer distances, but the trends tend to be, looking at the graphs, upwards in terms of percentage on time and downwards in terms of cancellations. Similarly, reasonable performance on the Middlesbrough to Nunthorpe route, a little bit declining within period 30 in the March period, particularly on cancellations. Saltburn again tends to be fairly well performing across all of the stations. Again, a little bit of decline in the March period. In terms of Middlesbrough to Darlington, that seems to be performing really well over the last period. In terms of the Durham coast, this is the area where again persistent challenges remain, with across all period 11, 12 and 13 around about 80% running to T3 and cancellations in the order of 2 to 3%, so significantly higher, but it does seem to be performing on previous kind of periods. And then Yarm finally, obviously only being served by Transpennine, so the operator coming long distance, particularly seems to be suffering on the T3 indicator, but has a relatively low level of cancellations. In summary, that's the report, unless there are any particular questions from members.
Thank you, Alan. Are there any questions on the performance? No one's indicating. Thank you, Alan. Which takes us on to item 6, which is government policy update. Bobby, presume you are.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Act, which members will see in paragraphs 12 and 13 of the report. So the Act received royal assent on the 29th of April. So the Act aims to introduce a more consistent national framework for devolution, moving away from individually negotiated deals of the past. From a transport perspective, the key provisions are set out in paragraph 13 of the report. In summary, the Act requires strategic authorities to establish a key route network with new mayoral powers of direction over those routes. It also strengthens the strategic role of the combined authority, introducing a new duty on constituent councils to act in line with local transport plans. It also gives combined authorities responsibility for micromobility licensing, as well as new local powers on pavement parking. So yeah, the combined authority, we're keeping a watching brief as this unfolds. We're still waiting for various secondary legislation and guidance to be published, and as and when this happens, members of the committee will be informed. Turning to national transport policy, paragraph 2 sets out publication of the integrated national transport strategy called Better Connected. So this establishes the overall direction for a more integrated and user-focused transport system. So this is supported by updated local transport plan guidance, which requires a more long-term outcomes-focused approach aligned with wider local priorities. So as you'll see in the report, there is also a strengthened focus on bus delivery through enhanced partnerships. So this is in paragraph 3 of the report. On roads and infrastructure, paragraphs 4 to 6 cover the new road investment strategy 3, which confirms £27 billion of investment in the strategic road network, particularly with a focus on maintenance, resilience and key corridors, including the A66 and A19. In addition, you'll also see in paragraph 8, it sets out the new structures fund, which forms part of a wider £1 billion package. So this is aimed at supporting investment in bridges, tunnels and other key infrastructure, particularly where long-standing issues have resulted in closures or restrictions. So the fund has a particular focus on improving network resilience, including to extreme weather. Bidding for the fund is now open until August 2026, with delivery set to take place through to March 2030. Yeah, so paragraph 9 of the report sets out the TVC response to the government's consultation on taxi and private hire vehicle licensing. So this was developed in partnership with local partners who also developed aligned responses. So this was coordinated through the Transport Advisory Group. In addition, paragraph 11 highlights our response to the call for evidence on the automated vehicles regulatory framework. So obviously the reason we do these responses is to ensure the combined authority is actively engaged in shaping future transport policy. Both full responses have been appended to the papers for members' information if you wish to read these. So moving on, in terms of decarbonisation and innovation, paragraph 10 outlines ongoing government support for zero emissions vehicles, including funding for vans, HGVs and charging infrastructure. So this, again, sits alongside the continued development of the automated vehicles framework, as we referenced in paragraph 11 in our response to the consultation. So finally, I'm guessing members are aware the King's Speech took place on the 13th of May. So this sets out the government's forward legislative programme. Paragraphs 17 and 21 outline the key transport bills that were announced by the King's Speech. So this includes the Railways and Passenger Benefits Bill, which will establish Great British Railways and aims to reform the rail system. There's also the Northern Powerhouse Rail Bill, which supports major rail investment across the north, and the Highways Finance Bill, which aims to introduce new delivery and investment models for road infrastructure. Also included is the Draft Taxi and Private Hire Vehicle Bill, which aims to improve consistency, enforcement and passenger safety. There is also the Civil Aviation Bill, which focuses on strengthening passenger protections and modernising aviation regulation. So overall there's been quite significant progress on devolution and legislation and a clear national direction for national transport policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. Are there any questions or comments from colleagues on the policy? Just to make my own observation in terms of where you started earlier on about government trying to introduce uniformity across combined authorities. The personal view I've had is that I think many people don't understand what combined authorities do because they're all very different, and people talk to each other in different parts of the country and get told different things about what their combined authority does. So I think it will help in terms of residents understanding what combined authorities do and don't do, probably more particularly, and what they're able to influence and where they're not. I think will help understanding with electors across the country, so I certainly welcome that going forward. Nobody else has indicated on this? No, thank you. Item 7 is the Mayoral Transport Fund.
Yeah, back to me. So this is an update on the Mayoral Transport Fund, which obviously we discussed at the last Transport Committee meeting, which was subsequently agreed by Cabinet as a draft submission, which we made at the end of March. So as a reminder for everybody, it consolidates a number of different sources of grant funding into one kind of umbrella and one delivery plan. In terms of the way in which we presented the local transport delivery plan, it's a number of investment packages around rail, around unlocking strategic sites, around capacity and pinch points on the road network, around sustainable transport, which includes bus, active travel and electric vehicles, and also around digital transformation. So in terms of the report, it then contains a little bit of detail in terms of each of those investment packages, and where we are in terms of delivery and a broad overview of things that have progressed. So taking each in turn, firstly the rail package, obviously the key element within the last period has been the opening of Darlington rail station from a rail infrastructure perspective, which was on the 17th of May, just 2 weeks ago. Operationally, there is still further work to do in the station in terms of the station gateways, and particularly the integration, going back to Rory's point about the better connected, and the integration of the bus, walking, wheeling, cycling improvements on both the eastern and western gateway, and also on the northern gateway to ensure an integrated approach to the station. And also the work at Eagles Cliff has been substantially completed, currently awaiting approval from the ORR, the Office of Rail and Road, for authorisation for that for the new footbridge and lifts go into service, and that will then enable the necessary maintenance and repair work to be carried out on the existing footbridge. So that's two of our projects that have been CRSTS funded that are now very, very close to being completed, and certainly in one case the passengers are benefiting from them already. In terms of what we've been doing in the development of the rest of the programme, been working quite closely with the rail industry to look into a kind of strategic plan for the future, a bit similar to the way in which we work with the bus network and the bus industry. And particularly within this package, there are a number of projects. Middlesbrough Station being one of the long-standing projects that is in development, that is progressing towards kind of delivery. The package around station accessibility improvements and modal integration, work continuing on line speed and capacity, and a whole list of other kind of projects that are included within those paragraphs. In terms of unlocking sites and strategic sites and investment, there are a number of schemes that are being developed through here at the moment. Probably the key ones to highlight are around the progress on Darlington Northern Link Road with the publication of the Options Assessment Report a few weeks ago, continuing to progress around the transport infrastructure around Tees Works, the A66 and A174, continuing to work with colleagues in Hartlepool around the Western Link at Hartlepool, and continuing to work in all areas around supporting town centre regeneration and placemaking. So a number of schemes that are identified through different funding streams, where we're supporting with additional kind of transport infrastructure investment. In terms of road capacity and pinch points investments, again, a number of schemes are identified within that package. Officers around the room will be particularly delighted the funding agreements are all in their inboxes for the Highway Maintenance Fund, which obviously enables all the work to go ahead in the coming year. In terms of sustainable transport investment, it's great to see that whilst not part of the MTF programme, obviously we have secured and passed the Levelling Up Fund. That's enabled two schemes to get underway now within Hartlepool, the A689 Cadcoat Road scheme and the town centre to Sitting Carew, which is great, and a number of the other schemes will follow on behind there. And equally the Woodlands Road Active Jobber scheme funded by ATE's money is in appraisal at the moment and should be able to contractually commit and go ahead in very short order. In terms of the revenue that's also as part of this package, that's obviously enabling the delivery of the BSIP programme that Emily has talked about a little bit about earlier. In particular, highlights obviously the agreement for a number of new services, which is in procurement at the moment, so we'll be able to update shortly on those. Continuation of the fares offers that we've had in previous years, continuation of improvements, as Emily was saying, at stop, with improvements continuing to be made for the information that's provided, and from the earlier conversation, listening to the feedback to try and continue to improve that still further. Try and address some of the concerns around congestion by looking at bus priority improvement measures where necessary, and particularly, I'm sure members are aware, we've talked previously about a lot of the impact around the use of the digital infrastructure, the digital twin, which is enabling us to make some real success in trying to claw back some of those lost miles and those delayed minutes without having to necessarily do lots of the physical work that you would normally do. And again, we can talk about that in a lot more detail. I think the key thing since the last meeting around the decarbonisation of the fleet has been the additional money for zero emission buses that we've been able to secure in the subsequent period. So members may recall that previously the money that had been secured enabled start of zero emission buses to operate from Stockton depot. That subsequently meant that Stagecoach invested in further buses to make that whole depot electric, and the first half of Arriva Darlington depot to have its first electric buses by September 2026. The additional money has enabled more zero emission buses to be procured by Arriva for Darlington, so that will make it fully electric. And also the first electric buses in the Hartlepool depot, which again will make that all fully electric. So we'll have 3 fully electric depots by mid-2027 is the current kind of estimate. So those things are kind of working through with the bus operators at the moment to procure and buy those additional buses. And then the final one mentioned under here is around the Transport Safety Partnership, which is a new area of work for the Combined Authority, and the Chair knows too well because he's also chairing that meeting. Whilst we put it in the bus, it's really about public safety on public transport and ensuring that everybody's working together to try and address the issues and perceived issues around standards of behaviour, etc. So that's an exciting kind of piece of work that we can kind of take forward and try and help collaborate and address some of those kind of challenges that are potentially barriers for people using public transport. In terms of the walking, wheeling, cycling infrastructure, already mentioned the Hartlepool schemes. Hartlepool also have the town centre headland that is quite advanced and should begin work ahead of the summer. And finally, some work that's very close to being delivered around improving secure cycle storage across the whole of Tees Valley. And then finally, the digital innovation technology package. Again, we talked about using technology to try and improve the transport network, and that is very close to being agreed through the business case at the moment to enable further investment, further rollout of a lot of the processes that we've been putting in place and we've been trialling over the last kind of periods. So that's a brief run through of some of the progress that's been made on the draft. Just to make members aware that that draft submission was made in March. We now need to work collaboratively towards the final submission, which will go to government in, well, it's been revised. It was originally going to be September, it's now October, as we found out on Friday. So that's working through. Obviously, in terms of a number of conversations going on, so lots of collaboration. There's a recent workshop with the rail industry and a number of local authority colleagues. And obviously we're going to talk about some of those individual projects and those individual schemes and packages immediately following the close of this meeting.
Thank you, Alan. Have any questions on this section? Marion?
Yes, can I just get some more detail, please, on the... Is that on? On the Tees Work West Transport Hub, with regards to the South Bank station, do you have a more specific timetable than we had originally, please?
Not at the moment, Marion. The final details are just working through with Network Rail, ourselves and colleagues from the council, so we should be able to give more information on that in the next couple of weeks. But at the moment, we don't have a definitive date. They're just finalising the details of the work that needs to be done and some of the agreements that need to be put in place, and then we'll be able to kind of say more about that.
So can I say by the end of June then that you will have a timetable in place?
Should be able to give you a timetable by the end of the month, yeah.
Okay, and has the transfer to Network Rail actually taken place?
Not at this moment. There's still some ongoing discussions around how that is kind of achieved, yeah.
And again, do we have a final time or a date for that, please?
It's all linked into the same kind of plan.
Right. Necessary approvals and funding, have they been identified?
Yeah,
All of those in the package?
everything's all in the package together. So when we come back with all the dates, they'll all be wrapped up into everything that needs to happen to kind of deliver that out. But
Right, so I can pin you down to the back end of June then to say definitely that's when this package will come through and we'll know exactly what's going on at Southend.
as long as it's me and Ross, then yes, because we're both kind of working through on that kind of basis. So yes.
Yes, I'm looking at you. Okay, right, thank you.
Anybody else? No, lots of shaking heads. Thank you for that update. Lastly, on the agenda today is just a reminder of the dates and times for the coming municipal year. Are they presumably gone out electronically or not as yet?
Not as
Not as yet. Will they go out after this meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So just a reminder in print, but also they'll go out shortly. I presume, sorry? It's just been pointed out to me that for the first date, which is the September meeting, there are a number of options.
Yes, it was to
Shall I pick that one up? Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve. So we'll pick that up because that will be a workshop following on the final local transport delivery plan. So we wanted to, in the following session, test where members' availability was for that, given that it's the kind of end of the summer holiday period.
Right. And given there are some substitutes here today, that's probably better than being done by email.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I know that having spoken to the new portfolio holder for Stockton, he has some constraints over his working hours, but is able, with about 3 or 4 weeks' notice, to do certain dates. So I checked that with him yesterday, so I can feed that into the discussion.
So something will come out shortly to sort it out. Thank you. If there are no comments about the dates, can I thank colleagues for your attendance today? Thank you very much.
Excuse me.